term, that is from Alice in Wonderland, you might know that, is your best strategy for both leadership and networking. So you heard a little bit about my background and how I founded Glowe a couple of years ago, but a bigger part of that story is that I've been on a 12-year transformational journey that I describe to people as moving from living in black and white to now living in full-blown Technicolor. And that has been a really long journey for me, but transformative. During that time period, not only did I learn who I really was, and I learned to embody my Youiest You. And so that's how I'm sitting here talking to you about this, because I feel like it is so important. So my brief story is, I was living in black and white, and I was on the corporate ladder, so from the outside looking in, you probably would have seen a very different view of me. I was on the corporate ladder, I was in a lot of leadership positions in the community, I was on boards, I had the privilege of birthing 3 wonderful children. I was on the hamster wheel. I was working out every day. I had a schedule from 4 a.m. to 4 a.m., just like many of you described here. And from the outside looking in, looked like a pretty good life. But I was miserable. I was living in black and white. And then within a pretty short period of time, I had 3 people, different people who didn't know each other, reach out to me and hold up a mirror. Not a literal mirror, figuratively. And they all reached out, they all sat down with me for coffee or lunch, and they said, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Oh, what do you mean? I'm crushing it at work, I'm doing all these cool things." And they were like, no, back up. And they started to give me examples of things that they'd seen. And I kind of paused, because as women, we're tough, right? We can handle a lot of things, and we don't suffer fools. Like, we're not gonna admit that things aren't going well. And they started using example after example, and it was one of those things where I was like, I'm gonna think about this. You get to the third person who does this in a pretty short period of time, and you pay attention. And I started reflecting, and after I did a lot of reflection, these were all things that I knew. Obviously, these were things that happened, and so, but what I was reflecting on is, why am I suppressing what's going on? What's going on with me that's making me do that? And once they showed me, I couldn't unsee what was going on. So the reality was, I was in a terribly abusive marriage, and that's what was leading me to stay small, live in black and white, and be completely miserable. So the bigger part of the story, and the longer part of the story, which we're not going to get to tonight, is what happened next. It was the series of actions, the series of choices, and the struggle to get to a safe place where I could finally begin to find myself. And finally, after that, figure out how to really embody it and show people who I really was. I tell you this because, to my core, I want every single human in the world to be their Youiest You. Obviously, I have an affinity for women to do this. However, it's really important. It's one of the foundations of why I named my company Glowe. I want everyone to glow. The world will be a better place if everyone is their Youiest You. So, I was asked to talk about women leadership and networking. So, I'm going to talk about that for a minute and how this relates. So, with respect to leadership, being your Youiest You gives you the opportunity to show your unique gifts and talents, your superpowers, your unique personality. It allows people to connect with you. It allows bosses, partners, other leaders to give you projects and opportunities for you to thrive, because they know you're Youiest You. They know what to give you then. So when we dim our light and we choose to not be that version, my guess is you're going to get things that you're like, that doesn't really feel right. I mean, I could do it, but it doesn't really bring me a lot of joy. So how do we reverse that? We reverse that by showing people who we really are. On the networking side, one more thing. One thing that I just recently learned about, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting on, is some of the reasons why we don't show up as our Youiest You. And I obviously did that for a really long time, so let's not do what I did. But there's a lot of reasons why we don't, right? Maybe we're scared of what potential consequences would be, or things, we don't want to outshine someone. And that's the one that really got me. Not wanting people to think that I would outshine them. Like, that's kind of silly. But it's real. And we've been talking to a lot more people, and we're learning that this whole fear of outshining is a real thing. And I think probably for women, it's probably more of a thing. So I just want to offer that up just to kind of plant that seed. If you ever find yourself dimming your light because you have a fear of outshining someone, it's probably not them stopping you, it's probably you. So just think about that a little bit. As far as networking goes, so I loved that the word connection came up, because I think when I originally learned to network, it was all about collecting cards, getting names, and there was some kind of desired outcome that I was being asked to do as a result of networking or going to a networking event, right? So hopefully by now, we all in this room don't do that. We want to connect, right? It's much more fun, much more interesting, and we're all women, so we like to, talk and get to know each other a little bit more, which is great. But the one thing I would challenge you on with respect to networking or connecting is, what question can you ask after the program's over when you walk up to someone and meet them for the first time? That's not, "Hi, I'm Whitney. I'm the founder and CEO of Glowe Connective. What do you do?" I don't ask that question ever, by the way. I don't like that question. I want to know who you are. I want to know something about you that's going to give me more insights into how we might connect. And so what's a question that you can just have kind of in the back of your mind that's not, "So what do you do?" So maybe take a minute to think about that before the end of the night and then practice it. That would be pretty cool. And then the other thing I would say about networking is dispel or take the desired outcomes or take any expectation of outcomes off the table. Just take it off the table tonight and just focus on whoever is right in front of you and figure out how to connect with them. Funny story that ironically ties back to the United Way that goes along with this theme is, so I've been kind of practicing this in earnest for about the last 12 years because I genuinely wanted to connect with people and I kind of didn't want to talk about what I did, so I focused on a lot of questions about what are they passionate about and what lights you up, or weird funky questions to get people talking. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, I like to be a little bit more provocative and I like to be a little bit of a disruptive thinker and ask questions. And so about, I think 15 years ago or so, United Way went through a big strategic planning session. It was right when ORV came on and we were doing a bunch of new things. And so I got to be part of that group. And during that meeting, I met Yinka, who was, I think he was in charge of all the giving or something at the time. And we had a great conversation. Apparently I threw out some outlandish thoughts and ideas or something that he remembered, because 2 weeks ago he reached out to me on LinkedIn and he said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but a million years ago when we were doing this strategic planning thing for United Way, you had some pretty crazy questions and thoughts, and I could really use some of that thinking right now. I'm in a new role, you're doing your Glowe thing, let's talk." And I thought, how crazy is that? First of all, I had to look him up to be like, wait, where was I? What was I doing? How did this all come out? But I remember the conversation we had afterwards. And so when I think about that and think about how many times that's happened to me, that's such a powerful way to network, right? If you connect with somebody tonight that maybe 2 months, 2 years, who knows, you could make a connection for them, you could reference them, you could learn something tonight from them and repeat it and pay it forward and tell someone else. You just don't know. But that's really the power of the network, I think. And so, thank you for letting me come get a little bit of a chat. This was so great. I hope that you will all think about how you can show up as your Youiest You, because I promise you will attract so many more things that bring you joy, abundance, success, and more importantly, it'll bring you a life that you're really excited to live. So, thank you.